So thank you again for taking out time to meet with us today. My name is Mark Pullman, Account Manager with WhereScape. Um, to kick things off, I'd like to cover a few slides to review and to highlight why automation can be a game changer for your next data project, specifically in the context of Microsoft Fabric development. After that, our solution architect, Indika Pasquale, will walk through real-world examples and workflows to demonstrate how automation can save you countless hours and fast-track your next data project. Next slide. So what is WhereScape and how can we help? Our journey began 25 years ago as a small consulting firm designing and implementing data warehouses around the globe. Along the way, we noticed the same recurring challenges. Teams were spending countless hours and repetitive tasks creating tables and managing stored procedures. To solve this, they started developing templates that they could use to automate leveraging your metadata. This allowed them to standardize their processes and increase scalability to increase developer output. After many successful projects, they transitioned from a consulting firm to a software company solely focused on unlocking the power of automation. Fast tracking forward to today, teams typically see an 8 times increase in developer output. But as our customers will say, if you find yourself repeating a task more than 2 to 3 times, you should really consider automating it. And it's this level of flexible automation that allows our customers to shrink development time. Next slide. So what is data automation? The Data Warehouse Institute defines automation as technology that improves efficiency across warehouse processes, not just development, but also automation for design, testing, operation, and change management. Next slide. And WhereScape really meets this mold and really provides an end-to-end solution to really manage your entire process. To get you started, next slide. WhereScape provides a top-down approach. We provide 2 solutions under one powerful platform. WhereScape 3D, which stands for Data-Driven Design, is our data warehouse planning tool that provides automation for discovery, profiling, and the designs of your pipeline. WhereScape Red is our core builder solution that sits on your chosen target and manages your tasks, your jobs, and it actually creates the code needed to populate your data project. For those of you guys that are building out your data vault, we also have built-in templates for Data Vault that makes it easier to build out your hubs, links, and satellite to really give you a complete end-to-end solution. Next slide. So who benefits from automation? We've actually designed our platforms with multiple user types in mind. Database administrator gain control over deployment and testing. Developers benefit from continuous integration support, making iterative updates faster. And your architects, they use data discovery and profiling to design fully documented warehouses for development. And then finally, your analysts, they gain quicker access to clean and consistent data leveraging WhereScape automation. Next slide. So again, WhereScape provides a top-down approach. To get you started, WhereScape 3D is our design tool. It allows you to auto-profile and document your warehouse before any code is written. There's design automation to import, build, and compare your logical and physical models so the technical and business users are on the same page. One of the unique features is the ability to map models to other models. Again, WhereScape 3D is leveraging its metadata to maintain all the data lineage, and it creates the documentation so there's complete transparency. So now if a user asks, where does this come from? There's track back analysis. There's even track forward reporting to figure out what's impacted downstream. So once you have a documented blueprint of what you're developing, you're ready to export this build over to the WhereScape Red solution. Next slide. And in the WhereScape Red solution, this is where we transform your designs from 3D into a fully operational data warehouse. We automate the entire development process. It's here where you can simply connect to your databases, your files, and your API sources. And the WhereScape Red is the drag and drop functionality that eliminates all of the manual coding for you. Next slide. So in summary, there are a few reasons to leverage both the WhereScape with your Fabric. It's going to help you consolidate your sources to accelerate the migration. You have complete data lineage from start to finish, from gathering your requirements to the development of the code that's actually generated. You have complete data lineage from start to finish. And then you also have different models that are available. We support third normal form, star schema, and then you also have Data Vault templates that are available for you out of the box for seamless workflows. Okay. Next slide. And then finally, our solution is platform agnostic. Again, one of the advantages of working with WhereScape is that we support third normal form, star schema, and Data Vault out of the box. We're also completely platform agnostic. So from start to finish, we can help you automate the entire life cycle from gathering your requirements to code generation and deployment across all of your major platforms. So once you start working with WhereScape, you won't need a special skill set to work on the next platform. Just as important, any work that you're doing with WhereScape today can be recreated on another platform. You can leverage what we call model conversion rules to rebuild on a different platform. And this gives you the ability to avoid vendor lock, which could be important if you're like a lot of customers that will typically change their data platform every 5 to 7 years. Next slide. And then as a company, we have over 1,500 customers ranging from small to large organizations utilizing WhereScape. We're proud to serve leaders across industries from higher education to finance to healthcare to manufacturing. As you can see, we're not tied to any particular vertical. Next slide. Okay. And we have extensive online training to assist with our customers. It's available through our WhereScape University. If there's interest in getting hands-on training, we offer full access to both WhereScape Red and WhereScape 3D for development. Okay. Thank you again for your time, and I'll actually turn it over to Indiga Pasquale that will review real-life examples for automation.
Thanks, Mark. I'm going to start sharing my screen. And hopefully you can let me know when you can see it.
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah, now you can see it. Okay, so my name is Indiga Pasquale. I'm a solutions architect for WhereScape in EMEA. And today we will show you how we integrate with different features and different products or sub-products on Microsoft Fabric. It will only be, let's say, a very short feature-wise demo. And on the next series or on the next webinar of this series, which contains 3 webinars, we will go into more details about how we can model and deploy into Data Fabric as a target. Okay, so first, I will give you a very short introduction on both products. Okay, what you're seeing on the screen is WhereScape Red, which is our builder tool. This means that with this tool, we will generate all the DDL and all the DMLs, all the code generated based on metadata and all the physical tables. And this, what you're seeing here, is WhereScape 3D, which is our modeling tool, which will basically gather the metadata, gather models. Today, we will see how we can gather information from Purview and also transform that metadata or those models into target models based on a set of rules we call model conversion rules, which were also mentioned by Mark before. if I go back to my overview, basically with both products, WhereScape takes you from your data sources into your reporting layer. Okay, you can choose if you want to use something like a 3NF or a data vault, on what targets you want to actually deploy it. Everything is based on metadata. We can generate the documentation automatically. And it also includes a scheduler, which is an Azkaban scheduler that comes with the product, but you can also integrate with other schedulers and other integrations, as you will see today. Okay, the first part of Fabric that I want to talk about is Microsoft Purview. Microsoft Purview is a unified data governance and compliance solution that helps your organization manage, protect, and maximize your data. It's used for data discovery, classification, lineage, and so on. Okay, I'm going to show you how we can leverage Purview with WhereScape 3D and how we can use that to actually model and to basically use the metadata from Purview within the WhereScape environment. Okay, I'm going to show you a little bit first how Purview looks. Okay, and which table I will show you how to import. Okay, inside Purview, I have something which is a table which I have discovered on one of my sources. In this case, it's a Snowflake table, and I have added, let's say in this case, certain classifications, or in other words, I have enriched the metadata from my source with these classifiers. The usual use case for this are things like the GDPR, or maybe IPA as well, or simply the business can enrich the metadata by using Purview as my data catalog. Okay, in this case, I have added, I have called my customer ID as an EU passport number, and I have these two set as full names and so on, just as an example. Okay, I'm going to go into 3D, and I'm going to show you how I can actually import this, okay, into one of my sources. Okay, I have imported this on my Northwind source, even though it was, let's say, from a different source, which is customer on Snowflake. Basically, what I do is I right click, I click on import, and I click on Microsoft Purview. Okay, this will use the credentials that I have set on my settings to actually point out the models that I already have here. Okay, so in this case, what I can do is, for example, find this table that I'm looking into, which was, sorry, on my Snowflake connection. Okay, I can choose as many tables as I want. Okay, in this case, I actually chose, I believe, one of my customer ones. Okay, let me see which one it was again. Just simply customer. Okay, and this will import my metadata. Okay, it's already there, so I'm just going to ignore it. It doesn't really matter. Okay, and once I import this, if I display this source, okay, I only chose this small table, and now what you can see is that for my columns, for example, the ones that we were looking at were first name and last name. Okay, you can see that it says Microsoft personal.name and last name as well. And the other one we're looking at is my customer ID. Okay, so this metadata is imported into WhereScape 3D. Now, based on that, we can use the model conversion rules to actually create a small rule that I have created for this demo, which is called GDPR Purview. This will basically find the classified attributes and mark them as a GDPR. In this case, the ones that are an EU passport, again, just as a short example. And it will classify them as a GDPR value. Okay, actually, I could actually add more of those classifiers, but this is what I've actually done. If I right click now here and I apply that model conversion rule, Okay, it should have found this. Actually, maybe I have not done it on the right spot. Or maybe I'm not applying it on the right attribute type. But this will basically flag my attributes. Okay, well, it was already flagged because I had already applied it. This will basically flag my column type as a GDPR. Okay, if I click on cancel here and I make this window a little bit bigger, we can actually see that my attribute has been flagged with this red. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unflag it. So you see that the model conversion actually did work. And now if we run it again, okay, now we can see that it has hit that attribute that before was already flagged. Okay, it has already flagged an attribute type as GDPR. And now again, we see that same result. Based on this, I can already make other rules, or I can mask this attribute, or I can apply whatever compliance rule I would like to check. In this case for GDPR, but again, it could be with any other attribute type or any other classification that we bring from Purview. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to show you is how we can integrate with OneLake. Okay, shortly, OneLake has a series of files basically landed as if it was something like ADLS, for example, and I'm going to show you how we can browse OneLake just in the same way we browse ADLS or we browse any other source. We can actually browse OneLake, and this will show us the files that I have landed on my Fabric environment. Okay, I see some of you guys have already added some questions. I will cover most of those questions at the end because I cannot do both things currently. Okay, shortly, if you're familiar with the browser of WhereScape Red, this will basically pick up the files from my OneLake, and now I can choose things like a CSV file or maybe a Parquet file. Let's just use customers. Okay, and this will allow me to expose the metadata here as well. Okay, so in this case, for example, I had, this is my separator and there's a header, okay? And in this case, in the case of the Parquet file, everything is included on the footer. So I really do not need to set any other options. And this will expose my my columns, in this case, my column names and my data types, okay? And of course, if I drag and drop into the middle, this will allow me to generate a table as well. And it will translate, of course, those data types into my Fabric target. Okay, OneLake is a unified data lake in terms of the Fabric ecosystem. It's the base where all your data files and maybe your Parquet files, where you will land all your data. And it has a native integration. It has shortcuts, so you can integrate other storage locations and so on. And that's why it's important to be able to browse and to load from OneLake as well. The next integration that I want to show you is Data Factory. Okay, so basically, once we want to load a file, okay, I have different examples here. Okay, one of my examples could be something like loading with a Python script, a CSV file that's in ADLS, for example, okay? And a different example would be the same or a similar CSV file, which is stored in OneLake. You can see on my source that it is actually pointing to OneLake, okay? And it's pointing to my demo workspace, demo lakehouse, and so on. Okay, maybe I can show it a little bit more. Okay. You can see the whole path for my file. This will generate based on a different template, a data factory. That's what this suffix means. It's a Fabric Python script load data factory. If we look at this generated script, this will generate all the necessary JSON and all the necessary code to generate a pipeline. Okay, here you can see this, all this code. When we run this, it will basically check, and here you can see this, this that will generate that JSON code that I'm actually talking about. I just ran it a few seconds ago before the demo, and you can see here this run, okay, with all my output. This basically says, because maybe you cannot see it, that it has found a data factory pipeline and that it is running it again. Okay, it has run it successfully, and it's finished, I think, just a few minutes, just maybe 10 minutes before the demo started. I can display my data now. Okay, and when this displays the data, we will see the all those loaded. And this is the data factory pipeline with a copy activity that we have generated from that template that I was showing you. Okay, basically what the template does is it will generate the JSON that includes this, that defines this activity, and it will also run it for us. Okay, so again, this was 15 minutes before the demo started. Okay. And in this demo, there's, okay, so this is when we run it. And that JSON is what's generated by the template, and it's uploaded to my Fabric environment. Okay, if I go back into my red environment, you can see that this timestamp matches, of course, when we just run that last time for the data factory pipeline. Okay, roughly this is what I wanted to show you on this short demo. Again, this is a demo only about the general features. Okay, all the other features, if you know about WhereScape, things like creating tables, things like making a data vault or a 3NF, a dimensional model, all those things, of course, are included. But this demo is only about the specific features. On the next video, we will talk about how to actually create a data vault or a 3NF and a dimensional model. Okay, again, using some of these features. And of course, everything that we do on our WhereScape environment will be translated in the case of the data factory, creating the data factory. In the case of Purview, importing all those classifiers or any metadata that we have in Purview. And in the case of OneLake, again, browsing those files. Okay, I'm going to find the table that we have just loaded. Okay, if I go to my workspaces on my demo workspace, okay, this is the pipeline that we just run. Okay, and we find our warehouses. Where is my warehouse here? Open warehouse. And the table that we just loaded was called, I believe. Look, category is OneLake CSV Data Factory. Okay, this is going to be a little bit slower because the metadata is being updated. I'm going to start checking in the meantime into one of your questions. Let me see. I move this around. Let me see. We're looking at load tables. I'm not sure this has been updated yet. I'm going to go over some of the questions. Okay. Is this WhereScape 10? Yes, this is WhereScape 10. If you're using WhereScape 9, this enablement pack is only available in WhereScape 10. But with the same license, you can use both WhereScape 9 and WhereScape 10 simultaneously. So feel free to download WhereScape 10 and this enablement pack as well, and you just give it a try. Okay, deploying this to Data Factory, would this create a pipeline for every table loaded? Is there a way to get it to loop throughout the tables in a single pipeline? Yes, there is a way to actually make that happen. And the way we would do that is by generating what we call a workflow button. Let me see if I have one here. I do not. I don't have a workflow button here. We can basically add a workflow button here that will allow you to basically add an extra button here, and that will allow you to pick basically different objects and create a pipeline for more than one object. Okay. Does it support MySQL? Yes. As a source, yes, and as a target as well. You could use both. Both you could actually support. We would only change the templates and of course the data type mappings, which are included, let's say, with the product as well. Okay, I'm not sure if there's other questions or if we don't have any more questions for now, I'm going to try to find that table, which may or may not be updated. I'm just wondering if it will be updated soon enough. Okay, the problem with this is that this may or may not be updated fast enough for me to show it during the demo. I'm going to try to reload it. What version of 3D are we using for this demo? I'm using the latest version of 3D, which is, I think, 9.5, if I'm not mistaken, 9.55. Okay, this is the latest version. Purview integration has been around for already maybe 1 or 2 versions. Okay. And the Purview integration, you can find it on your settings. Okay, make sure that on your enable functionality, everything is in advanced. And then go to integrations, Microsoft Purview credentials. Here is where I have added my credentials. And if I click on test, my connection is successful. That will allow me to browse what I showed you before on my Purview classifications. Okay. Let me see. Let's give one last try out to see if that table has been updated. And if my mouse starts working again. I have a click button here. I'm going to try to show you if that table is actually loaded. Again, the panel example was pretty simple in that it's just a copy into command. When you deploy objects like a 3NF or data store, where you may have insert update steps, how is the data factory constructed? I did post a question on the Q&A. Yeah, I will try to open the Q&A box here before. Yes, so what you have seen is a pipeline that is generating a copy into only for my load table. Okay, if I have something like a 3NF, I could simply use the default template, which will actually generate all the DML that I actually need. Shortly, I would use the pipeline for ingestion and maybe transformation, but not to run a simple or a simpler DML for the 3NF. I would not need a pipeline, let's say, to construct the 3NF, though I could. It is possible. We could arrange the template to actually do that for you. It's simply not a use case that's, well, that interesting from our side. It's more interesting in ingestion, because that's where the data factory objects are more interesting on the warehousing side. I'm going to try to find that one last time my table. Okay, and I cannot see it because it's not updated. Even though it has updated, we could have seen our data factory object has been updated before. But okay, let's move into the questions. The only reason here is that the Power BI GUI has not updated the metadata for my table, but the table is actually there. So yeah, let me see which other questions you actually have. Are the pipelines scheduled by Azkaban, or is it the native ADF scheduling? Currently, I just run it via ADF. I could schedule it via the Azkaban, but I think it's actually better to just schedule them via the ADF. So if I look at my pipeline here, I have just run it manually. I could schedule them both with Azkaban and with the Data Factory interface. I think personally, it's better to do it with the Data Factory version. But again, it's a little bit up to you. Okay, I'm going to try to destination. Yeah. Let me see which other questions you have. If your target repository is a lakehouse, will stage dim and fact ETL be generated as notebooks? Not necessarily, not on the version that you're seeing right now. What you're seeing right now is I'm pushing or a data factory object for ingestion, okay? And then I would be sending basically SQL code, as I'm gonna say, as within a regular target, okay? That will generate dimensions, fact tables, and so on, with SQL, okay? But you could generate it with notebooks. On one of our previous webinars, we generated notebooks on Databricks, which would be basically the same concept as here. You can. The short answer is you could, but you may not want it. You may or may not want it. Both options are possible. I use ADF to orchestrate Databricks notebooks, triggering based on file uploads and schedules. Does all orchestration happen within the WhereScape instead? Again, same answer, just exactly the same answer as before. You could orchestrate it with a pipeline. If I orchestrate it with a pipeline, then I would orchestrate it with Databricks or Fabric. Again, a personal preference. I could also orchestrate that to trigger that pipeline with Azkaban. It just doesn't make much sense for me. And if you want to make it, let's say, triggered by itself and you're on Databricks, you can create a Delta Life table, and then you would create a notebook, and then that would be triggered by a landing file. Again, that's on our last demo. That's exactly how our last demo ended. Yeah, I would schedule it on whatever target you're actually using. It's simply better, I think. Is WhereScape generating Databricks notebook code to implement medallion architectures, or is WhereScape replacing Databricks? WhereScape is not replacing Databricks or Fabric. We are only generating the code to create tables, populate tables, and to manage your infrastructure in Fabric and or on Databricks, which of course are similar in their underlying architecture of data files and pipelines and notebooks and so on. Does WhereScape provide me a means to manage the secure API access to data lake workflows for purpose-built LLM to perform analytics processing? No, that would be managed entirely by your Databricks, or in this case, by your Fabric infrastructure. Okay, I think I have answered all the questions except the ones of the Q&A that I was not seeing before. Let me see which ones are on the Q&A. I have generated pipelines using Azure Data Factory and Databricks notebooks to implement Medallion architecture in Azure Cloud. Does WhereScape replace ADF and Databricks? Yeah, no. Okay, but WhereScape can generate Databricks notebooks. Actually, I can show you one, but this was not intended for this demo, but I will show you one because I have one open here. This is an example of a Databricks notebook generated with WhereScape Red and deployed on Databricks with simply a different template generated this comment section. Okay, you can actually see when it was generated and so on. And it created the SQL syntax for a Delta Life table. And then it also generates the JSON for the pipeline. So it's this case that several of you are asking. This could be equally done on the Fabric infrastructure, and it will be, I would think, very similar. Though I'm not sure. I don't think there's Delta Life tables on Fabric, but I'm sure there's something similar. Okay. The idea of generating a notebook would be exactly the same. And the last question that I see here right now is, David, when pulling a CSV parquet and text files into Red to create a table, how does WhereScape handle changing the data types? This could be as simple as a string changing from varchar to varchar 150, or as difficult as an integer field because of the data on the file. Does WhereScape automatically roll out a data type or file length changes into the target? Yes, I didn't show you that, but I will show you now if you would like. If I have something like a parquet or a CSV, doesn't really matter. I can drag and drop it here. And this will ask me what kind of table I want to create. Unless I did something incorrectly, maybe. Okay, I'm going to call this, okay, load customer didn't exist. I'll give this a unique name. Okay. I'll set this to my data factory once again. I'm going to click on yes here, and this will already change my data types. In this case, from my string, from my Fabric, it has basically figured out what my data type should be. And if I click on create, it should run a generated DDL on my target, and I will see the results on my lower. Okay, I didn't show you this drag and drop function because that's on the next webinar, but yes, you can see that I have run this DDL, and now if I display it, it's empty because I have not populated, and I can generate the code necessary for my data factory. Okay, and by running this, I will populate it again. Again, same example as before. You just have seen how to drag and drop it here. That's yeah, but basically all the data types are changed with the data type mappings that are included on the product. Okay, I think that's all the questions we had. Unless somebody comes with any other questions. I think these are done. There's another question. Does WhereScape generate Databricks notebook code in SQL or only Python as well? The one that you have seen generates only on SQL code. The reason is for the warehousing side, we usually only use SQL code because it's easier for people from the warehousing world to follow up on something that is SQL than something that is Python. But we could modify the template to generate it on Python. It is possible, but in general, we generate the code in SQL just because it's the warehousing. The warehousing usually doesn't need the Python notebook, but I also think it will be cooler. But it is possible, but I don't have any template that does that, but it is possible. Nothing stops you from doing it. Yeah, I think there's no more questions for now. If you have any more questions, you can always send us an email, and please join the next webinar, which is about making a data vault and a dimensional model, again, on Microsoft Fabric. Yeah, and thank you for joining.
Thank you all.